immensely popular in their own right, so what government wouldn't want to hitch their wagon to a star? But secondly, conservatism always had as one of its pillars in Canada the monarchy. So the Conservative Party today is reviving that tradition. For better or worse, we'll see how it plays out with them electorally, but they see it as a way to distinguish themselves from the Liberals, who were never very strong fans of the monarchy.
That's a really good point.
Thank you. Well, we're going to now go to something that's, well, I'd say a little less royal, but more certainly not festive, but loud protesting. Yeah, a massive demonstration that's in Montreal that is underway right now to mark the 100th day of protest record of the students.
Days. Wow.
Unbelievable. I don't think anyone expected this to continue that long over tuition fees. Of course, it's now morphed into more than that. And another group's actually going to be marching in Toronto in solidarity with the Quebec protesters. Protesters are planned also for New York and Paris.
Wow, this is going global.
It is going global, so it sort of begs the question, is this like Occupy 2012? Let's ask our guest that question. He's in Montreal. Youri Chassin is an economist at the Montreal Economic Institute, joining us from our Montreal studio. Youri, okay, this protest movement has gone way beyond tuition fees, even beyond Quebec now. Is this the 2012 version? I won't say the Arab Spring, because I think that's really pushing it, but at least of Occupy, but with teeth.
Yeah, well, obviously we are past the point where tuition fees is the main issue. Obviously, there is a lot more, and artists and unions have joined, you know, the movement in sort, and we have seen more like anti-capitalist rhetoric or arguments against the race and for the entitlement. So there is some kind of, you know, larger sense of the protest now. Obviously, it's kind of different between this movement and the Occupy movement. For example, the Occupy movement pitched the 99% against the 1%. And in this case, when you look at the real measures, the raising tuition fees are actually affecting only the richest, the students from the richest families, the more affluent families. So it's not like, it's not the same fight, even if they do reclaim this kind of social justice agenda.
Youri, let me ask you a question that you're uniquely suited to answer, working for, you know, the right of center Montreal Economic Institute. You believe in market forces, yet what we're seeing on the streets here seems to be a big renunciation of a kind of a conservative reimagining of Quebec around the marketplace, around smaller, more efficient government. Are these protests and the scale of them a sign of the defeat of conservatism in Quebec?
I certainly hope not. Actually, we have to stay, we have to keep in mind that there is a minority of people in the streets right now in Quebec, and actually the majority of the people in opinion polls express themselves for the government and actually for the raising of tuition fees, which is not only the raising of tuition fees. We have to remember that it will raise actually the funds available for universities, so the Quebec universities will stay competitive on the national stage. And also we have to remember that there are grants and loans for those, for example, who are more coming from a poor background and need help to get on with their studies. So this measure is largely supported in the population, and we've seen it poll after poll. I think not, actually. I think it's a group, and a minority group at that, defending their entitlement, and we see the tuition fees actually taking on a symbolic value.
Okay, if that is the case, then what should be Premier Charest's next move? If he's got the support of the majority of the population for his view here, should he not call an election?
Obviously, election would be like a last measure. And in 2008, let's remember that in 2008, the actual government was elected without making any mystery of its intention of raising tuition fees. So basically, there was already one election with this measure proposed. Probably that it will be more central in the next one, because already the opposition party, the Parti québécois, wish to go back and actually cancel this measure, so this raise. So basically, it will be part of the debate. I think it's a last resort, and we'll see in August when the semester will resume if there is still this kind of
August. Wait a minute.
gap between those.
These protests they're saying are going to go on. I mean, waiting till August is a pretty long time frame. If these protests keep continuing over the summer, can the government stand it?
That's a good question. Actually, there is, in this political confrontation, we'll see if the movement goes on until, well, for all summers, or if, students will find summer jobs and probably the wind of the movement will calm down. We'll see eventually also if the government can keep its ground, or if, for example, it will be tempted to negotiate again.
Youri, final quick question. You look at the images, the streets of Montreal. I could be viewing downtown Athens right now. It looks the same. The tear gas, the protests. Is there a spillover effect into Quebec about the whole kind of austerity versus, stimulus debate that's raging in Europe right now?
Well, there is a parallel, but obviously the tuition fee hike is not an austerity measure at all. It was proposed basically to increase the funding of universities, so no additional student contribution will go into, for example, deficits. We have to specify that. Obviously, since the symbolic value of the tuition fees makes it more like an entitlement debate, obviously, there is a parallel, because in Greece or in so many European countries, there is still this sense of entitlement against austerity measures in those cases. So maybe there is a parallel here, but it's only on this side of the problem.
All right, we'll see how far that parallel goes. Youri Chassin of the Montreal Economic Institute, thanks very much for joining us on National Affairs Today.